All right, let's talk about one of the most maddening phrases in all of digital communication, 1 sec. We're going to dive into the hidden psychology behind this little 1 second vanishing act and figure out what it really means when someone sends it. You know the drill, right? You're in a great conversation, the texts are flying back and forth, and then you get the dreaded 1 sec. You wait, maybe you see those little typing dots pop up, and then poof, they're gone. And so is the person, sometimes for the entire day. But here's the thing. What if I told you this isn't always about someone being rude or just plain forgetful? So often, that tiny little phrase is a signal for something way deeper. It's actually a small, socially acceptable escape hatch from a conversation. Okay, so let's decode this digital pause. To really get what's happening when someone pulls that escape hatch, we first need to give this whole behavior a name. Well, in psychology, there's a perfect term for this. Micro-avoidance. It's a tiny, almost invisible way of putting something off. It doesn't matter if it's a tough question, a decision, or just the mental energy it takes to keep chatting. 1 sec is the brain's favorite little pause button. You can think of it in a few different ways. It's an emotional exit when a conversation starts to feel a little too intense, or you could call it a digital delay tactic. My favorite, though, is a cognitive loophole. It's what tells our brain, hey, I'm not ignoring them, I'm just pausing. It's this clever little trick we use to soothe our own guilt while getting the distance we want. So what is actually going on inside someone's head when they do this? Well, the reasons are this really fascinating mix of how we perceive time, our emotional state, and yeah, even our deepest relationship patterns. This side shows it perfectly. It's something called digital time distortion. See, online, without all the usual physical cues, our sense of time gets totally warped. A 1-minute wait can seriously feel like 10. There's a whole field for this called chronoemics. So when someone says 1 sec and comes back an hour later, that gap between what they promised and your reality feels huge, and it creates frustration, even if they didn't mean to lie. A lot of the time, the root causes are purely emotional. It could be simple conflict avoidance, just dodging a question you don't want to answer, or response anxiety, that pressure to write back the absolute perfect reply. And sometimes it's just pure emotional burnout from being on all the time. In some cases, it can even be a subconscious move to take passive control of the conversation's rhythm. And believe it or not, this behavior also hooks right into our attachment styles, our basic blueprints for how we do relationships. Someone with an avoidance style, for example, might use 1 sec as their go-to tool to escape feeling pressured or vulnerable. But on the other side of that, a person with an anxious style gets that message, and that silence can feel like a huge threat, kicking their anxiety into high gear. A secure person, they're much more likely to just skip the ambiguity and be direct, saying something like, hey, need 20 minutes, I'll be right back. Okay, so let's flip the script for a second. What about the person who's left hanging? Because the impact of this goes way beyond just being a little impatient. It actually creates a very specific, very frustrating kind of emotional strain. It is so important to understand that this is not the same as ghosting. Ghosting is a final, total disappearance, but 1 seconding is different. It's not a clean break. It's what you'd call a delayed presence. It leaves you stuck in this state of suspended expectation, a total emotional limbo. And this quote just nails it. This state of uncertainty with hope can be incredibly draining. You're left wondering, waiting, maybe even replaying the conversation in your head. And in some ways, that ambiguity is so much harder to deal with than a clear, even if it's painful, ending. And that's really the long-term damage here. When 1 sec becomes a promise that's broken again and again, it's like a tiny crack that just chips away at the foundation of the relationship. It erodes trust, it builds up this quiet resentment, and it makes the other person feel like they're just not a priority. The whole rapport gets damaged, one broken micro-promise at a time. So, how do we fix this? The good news is, we can absolutely move towards healthier, more honest communication online without having to be available 24/7. It's really just about being more mindful. Look, the goal here isn't to ban the phrase 1 sec. It's about elevating these tiny little interactions. It's about making a conscious choice to communicate with more honesty and, frankly, more respect for the other person's time and their emotional state. So if you're the one who's always on the receiving end of this, the first step is simple. Just notice the pattern. Then think about the relationship. Is this a close friend or just a casual acquaintance?
Finally, if it really matters to you, you can open up a gentle, compassionate conversation about it. Maybe saying something like, "Hey, I noticed we sometimes pause our chats this way. Is there a better way we can handle it?" Okay, so what if you're the one about to type 1 sec? What's a better way? First up, be specific. Something as simple as, "Give me 10 minutes, I'll be back," sets a clear, realistic expectation. It immediately shows you respect their time. Here's another great one. Just own the fact that you need a break. Saying, "I need to pause, can we continue later," is super honest and really effective. It sets a boundary while still showing that you value the conversation and the person. And finally, I love this one for more serious topics. I want to reply thoughtfully. Can I get back to you? This is fantastic because it reframes the delay. It's not avoidance, it's a sign of respect for the conversation itself. It honors both the topic and the person you're talking with. So, as we wrap this up, let's remember the big picture here. This tiny little phrase is a window into so much more than just time. It reveals our emotional state, our stress levels, and our intentions in a conversation, whether we're conscious of them or not. So the next time your fingers are hovering over the keyboard about to type 1 sec, just pause for a real second and ask yourself, is this just a quick pause or is it actually a soft goodbye? Choosing clarity in that one small moment can make all the difference in our digital relationships.